relationship with Mr. and Mrs. Piersall. I've been their son-in-law since April 5th, 2003. As today is meant to be a celebration of their lives, I'll do everything I can to avoid misty eyes, but I can't make any guarantees. Over the last 18 months, which have been mostly spent in my house, I've had a lot of time to think about life, the universe, and everything. About who we are, what we do, and the people we choose to share our lives with. Today, as we honor Lois and Steve, let's take a look at that partnership that they shared for 48 years. At first glance, they appeared to be a couple of opposites. Steve was about 6'3", Lois was 5 foot nothing. Steve had long hair that flew in every direction when it wasn't in a ponytail. And Lois had a wide variety of close-cropped haircuts, to the point that it's a challenge to find 2 photos of her where she had the same hairdo. Steve had a booming laugh that could be heard from anywhere in the house. And Lois's laugh was barely audible, though it was so enthusiastic that it often let her out of breath. And most important preference that anyone could ever have, Steve loved his pussycats, fondly cuddling and scritching his Garfield and Oreo, while Lois was a dog person who always had either Simba or Brownie sitting loyally by her side, waiting food or a walk. Nevertheless, they were 2 sides of the same coin, who came together to live a full life of family, work, and play. People have heard this story before, but the details of their first meeting are vague. We've been told very little apart from the fact that Steve was on the floor of the coat closet when Lois met him at a social event at McGuire Air Force Base. He must have made quite a first impression, because shortly after Steve turned 21 in 1972, he and Lois were married, and their nearly 5-decade partnership began. Now, Steve had a phrase that he used to describe someone who may have seemed unremarkable at first, saying, "Let me tell you, they'll give you the shirt off their back if they have to." And on reflection, that described both he and Lois. Throughout their marriage, they devoted themselves not only to their children, but to those they cared about. As Cheryl arrived in 1976 and Donna arrived in 1981, the family moved from Lake Hiawatha to Hillside and later to Colonias, so that the family could have room to grow and play. And all the while, Steve worked in the daytime while Lois worked in the evenings in an effort to make sure the children had a parent around as often as possible during their formative years. That giving nature continued into their children's adult years, as Steve drove Cheryl to countless eye appointments, and even drove her to and from work every day for a stretch of time when she wasn't able to. And he saved a vacation once for us. As we arrived at the airport, ready to leave for Iceland, and realized we'd forgotten one bag, the bag with the coats, for Iceland. So Steve drove back from Newark, back to Avenel, and the vacation was saved. And when Donna brought her first child, Hunter, into the world, Lois and Steve, who would soon be renamed Honey and Papa, moved into a larger house in Raleigh to create a more comfortable place for this new family to live. And with the arrival of 2 more grandchildren, Julian and Kylie, Honey would become their daytime caregiver, as Donna went to work and took great pride in being able to spend so much time with all 3 of her grandkids. And in these later years, both Honey and Papa showed the same devotion to their grandchildren as they had to their own. As each child grew up and began taking part in street hockey, wrestling, dance, soccer, twirling, football, well, I forgot a couple, whether it was an overheated blacktop in the blazing sun, or in a theater with overpriced tickets to get in, on a freezing cold field in the dead of winter, or in the Rahway Rec Center that still somehow doesn't have air conditioning. Honey and Papa were in the stands cheering on Hunter, Julian, and Kylie, just as they had for Cheryl and Donna so many years earlier. It was that time with family that they valued more than anything. The semi-annual trips to Wildwood that they shared with Cheryl and Donna when they were children continued with the grandkids. Steve continued to plunge down the water slides with Julian, while Lois bobbed in the ocean waves with Hunter and Kylie. When they would come to visit our own backyard pool, they didn't seem to care that the water wasn't always crystal clear. I must confess it took me 19 years to figure out how to properly backwash a pool filter. It could have been just Cheryl and I enjoying a peaceful dip, or a raucous bit of splashing chaos with any combination of Hunter, Julian, and Kylie. They were just happy to float along and spend time with us and enjoy a Corona or 2, or a glass of boxed wine, as long as it was sunny out. They appreciated the hard work involved in raising a family, so they took whatever time they could to relax and enjoy such moments, whether special or ordinary. But as devoted as they were to their children and grandchildren, they were even more devoted to each other. They were by each other's side through every up and down over the years. In times of great happiness, in times of great loss, they supported each other. They enjoyed the extravagances of cruises and the simplicity of the buffet, but most importantly, they appreciated the life they had with each other. They also drove each other crazy. It's kind of impossible not to when you're together for that long. But they enjoyed corny jokes. They enjoyed bad singing. A few years ago, Steve got that red solo cup stuck in his head and would not stop singing it, and I'm surprised Lois didn't lock him out of the house. And Lois had a gift for finding very silly t-shirts to give to me. And she found this one a few years back. For those that may not be able to see it, it's the Run DMC album cover, but with cats involved. And I really, really enjoyed this. And I tried to explain the backstory to her, and she didn't get it. She just said, I thought it was funny because it was cats with a boombox. That's all that matters. But in the end, even though they may have seemed like an unusual pair at first glance, they just made sense in the way that all legendary couples do. They were Lucy and Ricky, Rob and Laura, Fred and Wilma, Homer and Marge, any number you can always list. And they had their own theme song, which may have explained them better than anything. When Cheryl and I got married, our wedding photographer, he wasn't great. Disappointing would be a polite way of putting things. However, our videographers did a wonderful job of capturing the important moments. But when we were first watching it, there was one thing that seemed a bit strange. When Cheryl and I had our first dance, they captured the first minute or so, but then moved on to the others on the floor. But when Steve and Lois took to the floor for the parents of the bride dance, they remained focused on them for the entire 2 minutes and 59 seconds of Color My World by Chicago, which had been their wedding song as well. And thinking back now, they did color each other's world. They were complete when they were together, and there was something fundamental missing when they were apart. Today we celebrate the years they were complete on this earth, and find comfort in our hearts that they are together for eternity. Let us eat, drink, tell corny jokes, sing loud and off-key, and think of the memories of the time we shared with Steve and Lois, or Honey and Papa, if you will. Our tears in their absence are understandable, but we should also find the warmth in our hearts as we appreciate the way that they colored our world as well. Thank you.
So I found this, and 90% of this was Dad. So here goes. Dearest loved one, I now know you think that I have died, but I'm not gone. That's just a 4-letter word, although you might want to double check my math on that one. Do you remember how in high school science class, your teacher talked about the new law of thermodynamics? Yeah, me neither. So let me refresh your memory. Your teacher told you that energy could neither be created nor destroyed, but only transformed. Now, I get it. Nothing dies, not really. And that's not religion, that's science talking. In fact, death doesn't technically exist, at least not the way you think of it. Only change exists. Only transformation exists. Particles get disorganized and reorganized and reorganized. But death? Nope. Take the flowers. They wither and become mulch, which then becomes topsoil, which then becomes minerals, which then becomes pH and soil sanity. Then these elements reassemble themselves to become the building blocks for new flowers, and on it goes. Or how about water? Water forms clouds, clouds make rain. Rain gathers in rivers and lakes, only to be used in swimming pools, iced tea, kitchen sinks, and vodka gallons. Water then evaporates to become more clouds. Now I ask you, does that sound like dying? Or maybe you can think about it like this. Long ago, when trains still ran through small towns, children would often run to the depots and watch the trains come and go. Do you remember those days? Children would marvel at the mighty engines with their clouds of steam and sounds of diesel and steel. Then it happened like this. Passengers would climb aboard, train doors would close, the coach would disappear over the horizon, and all the people vanished in a mere instant. But were they gone? No way. They were just unseen. Death is like that. I am no longer seen, you cannot touch me, but I am here beside you. I am still your dad. Although I cannot embrace you. I am still your mom, even though I cannot kiss you. I will always be your sister, your brother, your child, your best friend, your spouse, your lover. Although I cannot hold you, hold your hand, or whisper in your ear. All I can do is look upon your marvelous face and smile at you from behind this eternal glass. You may not be aware of me, but make no mistake, I'm still around, kid. Nobody ever tells you before you die that there is no up there and down here. Most folks live believing that their deceased ones are far away. Some envision a heavenly place so remote that it seems like Fiji or Timbuktu. But it's not like that, and I see that now. Heaven isn't a geographic location. It's not on a map. There are no coordinates. Therefore, heaven is neither bound by rules of time nor measurement of space. Thus, your man-made concept of distance doesn't hold water in this new realm. Don't you see? If it doesn't exist, then there is no distance between us. Meaning, I am right here reading this over your shoulder. There's a reason our ancestors called it the hereafter, because it's right here. I am not light years away. I am not on a sky island surrounded by cloud coverage and booming voice of Charles Heston. I am seated beside you. I can smell your shampoo. I can count your freckles, and I love you so very much. I know you miss me. Believe me, I know. I see you grieve when you think nobody is around. I have watched you weep into your hands while sitting in traffic. I've seen you cry yourself to sleep. Sometimes when you sob, I want to reach through the fabric of reality to hold you, like I once did, to make it better. But again, this isn't how it works. You and I are separated by a thin piece of silk, which neither the strongest man could tear, nor the sharpest tool could pierce. Nothing can cross this membrane that divides us, except art, music, poetry, and love. But I promise it won't be like this for long. In the meantime, don't stop remembering me. Don't put away my photos. Tell stories about me. If you ever begin to wonder where I am, if you ever feel lost, if you ever need evidence of me, just look around you. I am the humidity in your curly hair on a wet day. The morning dew on your kitchen windows at sunrise. The laughter around your supper table. I am the text on the screen. You cannot grasp me. You cannot contain me. And you wouldn't want to either. Because I am free in this new place. And believe it or not, I am finally perfect. I am happy. I am healthy. I am whole. And I am always with you, even until the end of time. But I am not dead. Not even a little.
This time, we request that if anybody has anything they'd like to share, their memories of Steve or Lois or both, please come forward and say what you gotta say.
For those of you who don't know, I am Stephen married to Gail, who is Stephen's sister. When we had our 25th wedding anniversary, my son was gonna stand up for her, which he couldn't do because of job obligations. So my other nephew was gonna do it, and he couldn't come because of the airlines being shut down, so Stephen filled up for me. He couldn't say, he said, I don't have a toast prepared because I wasn't number 1 on the list, I wasn't number 2 on the list. I was the 3rd choice, so I don't have a toast. So he hands me a piece of toast, bread, toasted, which I still have home in my freezer, by the way.
There's gotta be more than one crazy story out there, because Dad was loud and crazy.
My name is Craig McCauley. I'm Stephen's cousin. And the first thing I would like to say is there was never a family event or wedding or anything that Stephen and Lois were not at, along with the rest of their families, along with Gail and Stephen, their blessed parents who I love so much. But the one funny story I have about Stephen is I'm at my own wedding. It's about 15 minutes before I need to be at the church. I'm all dressed. Donna's already over there. I run to get in my car and drive down. And the keys are inside and the doors are locked. And what am I going to do? We all need a delinquent member of our family. Stephen came right up. Give me a coat hanger. Locks were cocked. Off I went to the church. Saved the day. That's what I'll always remember.